Evan had learned that space was never truly quiet. Even inside a station filled with soft lights and controlled air, there was always a hum beneath everything. Pipes breathed. Walls vibrated. Distant engines whispered like tired giants. Most people stopped noticing it after a while, but Evan never fully did. He liked the sound. It reminded him that everything around him was working, holding back the endless dark. He was halfway down the corridor toward his shared living unit when he noticed something was wrong. The door to his room was unlocked. That alone wasn't strange. Cathal sometimes forgot, but the lights inside were dimmed far lower than usual, almost off, and there was a faint clicking sound coming from within, soft and uneven, like someone tapping a surface without realizing it. Evan slowed his steps. "Cathal?" he called out, keeping his voice relaxed. The clicking stopped instantly. A moment passed. Then another. "I am here," Cathal replied, his voice quieter than normal. Evan stepped inside. The room was small but comfortable, designed as a compromise between human and alien needs. One side had Evan's bed, desk, and scattered tools. The other side was Cathal's sleeping platform, raised slightly off the floor and surrounded by thin, curved panels that provided privacy. Or at least, they usually did. Tonight, the panels were pulled back. Cathal sat on the edge of his platform, his long limbs folded too tightly, his upper eyes fixed on the wall. His skin, usually a smooth blue-gray, had darkened in uneven patches. Evan had seen that color change before. It meant stress. Deep stress. "What happened?" Evan asked. Cathal did not answer right away. His lower eyes flicked toward Evan and then away again, as if looking directly at him required effort. "The salvage run," Cathal said finally. "The return path." Evan frowned. "The one this morning? You said it was routine." "It was supposed to be," Cathal replied. Evan moved slowly, sitting down on his own bed so he wouldn't startle him. Humans were loud, fast, and expressive compared to Cathal's species. Evan had learned that sudden movements could feel aggressive, even when they weren't meant that way. Cathal's fingers twitched. "We entered a region of empty space," Cathal continued. "No signals, no debris, no radiation anomalies." "That happens," Evan said. "A lot, actually." "Yes, that is why we did not prepare for anything else." Cathal's breathing changed. It became shallow, uneven. "There was something there," he said. Evan did not interrupt. "At first the sensors showed nothing," Cathal said. "Then I felt it, not with instruments, with thought." That got Evan's attention.
"What do you mean, felt it?"
Cathal's eyes closed. "It was like a pressure inside my mind. Like being watched from behind, even when there is nothing behind you." Evan shifted slightly. He had felt that sensation before, back on Earth during long nights when the power went out. He had always told himself it was imagination. "The others felt it too," Koppel said. The pilot froze. The navigator began to cry. One of them started screaming, but there was no sound at first, only silence.
Evan swallowed. "What did you do?" "I tried to think clearly," Cathal replied.
But it was difficult. The pressure grew stronger. It searched. It touched memories. His hands clenched. "It showed me images," he said. "Things I fear. Things I regret. Things I never shared with anyone." Evan felt a chill run down his spine. "And then?" he asked quietly. Koffel hesitated. "And then," he said, "you spoke." Evan blinked. "Me?" "Yes. That doesn't make sense." "I was asleep in the engine section." "You were," Cathal agreed. "But you woke up." Evan tried to remember. He vaguely recalled being annoyed, rolling over, feeling like something had interrupted a good dream. "I heard something," Evan said slowly, "like static in my head. I thought it was interference." Koffel nodded. "The others were overwhelmed, but you sounded irritated. Evan let out a small, uncertain laugh. That sounds like me. You did not panic, Cathal said. You did not fear it. You asked it what it wanted. You told it to stop. That's ridiculous, Evan said. I probably just muttered in my sleep. Caffel's eyes focused on him fully now. The moment you did, he said, the pressure vanished. Silence filled the room. It withdrew, Caffel continued. Instantly. As if burned. Evan rubbed the back of his neck. Okay. That's weird. Yes, Cathal said. Very. They sat there for a while. The station's hum seemed louder now. Finally, Evan spoke again. So why are you still shaken? It left. You're safe. Cathal's fingers tightened again. It left the ship, he said, but not my thoughts. Evan watched him carefully. When I am alone, Cathal continued, I feel it again. Not fully, just echoes, like shadows behind closed eyes. Evan felt something twist in his chest. Is that why you pulled your panels back? He asked. Cathal did not answer immediately. In my culture, he said slowly, we sleep alone, always. Sharing rest space is a sign of extreme dependence, or extreme danger. Evan's heart skipped slightly. And? Evan asked. Cathal finally looked directly at him. I cannot rest alone tonight, he said. The words hung in the air. Evan processed them carefully. Cathal was proud. Private. Strong in his own quiet way. For him to say this meant things were worse than he was admitting. You want company? Evan asked. Yes, Cathal said. Then, after a pause, if that is acceptable. Of course it is, he said. You don't even have to ask like that. Cathal's shoulders relaxed just a little. I do not understand humans, Cathal said. Your minds should be vulnerable. You feel fear strongly. You imagine endlessly. And yet, it fled from you. Evan smiled faintly. We're good at pretending things aren't scary, he said. Even when they are. That does not sound logical, Cathal replied. No, Evan agreed. It works. Cattle shifted, clearly uncomfortable. I do not require physical contact, he said quickly. Only presence. Hey, Evan said gently. I'm not planning to hug you unless you ask. That earned Evan a brief, confused look, then something close to amusement. They rearranged the space slightly. Cathal's platform remained where it was, but Evan moved a chair closer and dimmed the lights just enough that the room felt warm instead of dark. As the minutes passed, Cathal's breathing slowly evened out. Evan leaned back, arms crossed, staring at the ceiling. Somewhere beyond the station walls, space stretched endlessly, silent, and watching. For the first time since leaving Earth, Evan wondered if some things in that darkness were not afraid of humanity because of its weapons, but because humans refused to look away. And beside him, an alien who had crossed half the galaxy finally allowed himself to rest, only because a human was nearby. Cathal did not truly sleep that night. He rested, which was different. His eyes closed for long periods, his breathing slowed, and the tight tension in his limbs loosened. But some part of his mind stayed awake, listening, watching, waiting. Evan noticed. Humans were not trained to read alien body language, but living together for over a year had taught Evan the small signs, the way Cathal's fingers twitched when he drifted too close to dreaming, the slight color shift along his neck plates when anxiety returned. Evan stayed awake longer than usual. He did not feel afraid. That surprised him. After hearing what Cathal described, he thought fear would come later, creeping in once the lights were low and the room was quiet. Instead, he felt something closer to irritation. The idea that something had entered their ship, touched their minds, and thought it could stay bothered him deeply. That was a very human reaction. When the station lights shifted to morning cycle, Kethel finally opened his eyes. "You remained conscious," Kethel said. Evan blinked. "Yeah, couldn't sleep." "You do not feel exhaustion?" Kethel asked. "I will later," Evan replied. "That's a future me problem." Kethel studied him for a long moment. "I do not understand how your species survives," he said. Evan smiled. Neither do we." They prepared for the day quietly. Evan brewed a hot drink while Kethel adjusted his environmental settings. Normally, Kethel would retreat behind his privacy panels during this time. He did not do that today. When they stepped into the station corridor, Evan noticed the difference immediately. It was too quiet. Trade stations were rarely silent. Even during low traffic cycles, there were always voices, footsteps, service drones, or distant announcements. Now, doors were closed. Lights were dimmed. A few aliens moved quickly, avoiding eye contact. Something had spread. They passed a group of Varelians huddled near a wall. Their frills were flared in clear distress. One of them noticed Evan and froze. The Varelian stared at him. Then, slowly, it relaxed. Evan frowned. Kethel noticed too. "They are responding to you," Kethel said softly. "That's not normal, is it?" Evan asked. "But no," Kethel replied. "They should be alarmed by your proximity. Your species is considered psychologically loud." Evan glanced back. The Varelians were watching him now, whispering among themselves. A station announcement echoed overhead. "Attention all residents. Non-essential travel is temporarily restricted. Please remain calm. Station security is investigating reported cognitive disturbances." Evan stopped walking. "Cognitive disturbances?" he repeated. Koffel's skin darkened again. "That is how they describe it," Kethel said, without causing panic.
Evan sighed.
"So it's not just us." "No," Kethel said. It followed. They headed toward the central commons. The space was usually full of mixed species, eating, trading, and talking. Now it was half empty. Some aliens sat alone, heads lowered. Others clung together despite cultural rules against shared proximity. A Kalari merchant rocked back and forth, muttering softly. A security drone hovered nearby, unsure what to do. Evan felt a faint pressure in his head. Not fear, not pain, more like static. He paused. "You feel it?" Cattle said immediately.
Yeah, Evan admitted, but it's weak. Kothel stared at him.
"Weak?" Like background noise, Evan said. Annoying, but easy to ignore. Cattle looked away, unsettled. "For us," he said, "it is overwhelming." A nearby station medic approached them. Her species had 4 arms and soft amber skin that pulsed gently with emotion. "You are human," she said to Evan. "Last time I checked," Evan replied. Her shoulders sagged in relief. "Please," she said. "Some of the residents they calm when you are near." Evan hesitated. "I'm not trained for this." "You do not need training," she said quickly. "You only need to be present." That felt wrong. Too much responsibility for simply existing. But Evan nodded. They followed her to a resting chamber where several aliens sat in distress. As Evan entered, the static in his head faded completely. One by one, the aliens noticed him. Their breathing slowed. Colors shifted. Some looked confused. Others looked hopeful. Evan stood awkwardly near the center of the room, hands in his pockets. "I feel ridiculous," he muttered. "You should not." Kethel said. You are doing what no technology can. How? Evan whispered. Kettle considered this. Perhaps, he said, your mind does not feed it. Evan frowned. What does that mean? The entity searches for reaction, Capital explained. Fear, despair, reflection. It amplifies what it finds. And humans? Evan asked. Kethel's eyes focused on him. Humans distract themselves, he said. Evan snorted. You make it sound like a flaw. For many predators, Kethel replied. It is. Hours passed like that. Evan moved through the station, guided by security and medical staff. Everywhere he went, the pressure weakened. The whispers faded. The unseen presence retreated. Evan did not feel heroic. He felt tired. At one point, he leaned against a wall and closed his eyes. The static returned. But this time, Evan pushed back, not with force, with annoyance.
Go away, he thought. I'm busy. The pressure vanished.
Kethel watched, stunned. You spoke to it again, he said. I didn't even mean to, Evan replied. They returned to their quarters late in the cycle. Evan collapsed onto his bed. I'm done for the day, he said. If space wants to be scary again, it can wait. Kettle did not retreat to his platform. Instead, he sat closer than before. The station council has requested your presence tomorrow, Kethel said. Evan groaned. I hate meetings. They believe you may be essential, Kethel said. That's worse. There is something else, he said. When you were present, Kethel continued, the entity did not only withdraw, it changed. Changed how? It became uncertain, Kethel said, as if it did not understand resistance without fear. Evan stared at the ceiling. Great, he muttered. We confused a space nightmare. Kethel tilted his head. That may be the most dangerous thing of all, he said. The lights dimmed again. This time, neither of them objected. Somewhere beyond the station hull, something ancient drifted, searching for familiar emotions and finding none. And for the first time in a very long existence, it hesitated. Evan did not dream. That alone felt strange. Usually his sleep was full of half-remembered images, random thoughts, and unfinished worries. This time, there was nothing. Just darkness. Calm. Silence. He woke suddenly, sitting upright. The station lights were still in night cycle. The room was quiet, but the air felt heavy, like before a storm. Kethel was awake. He sat perfectly still on his platform, eyes wide open, skin pale and tight. It is here, Kethel said. Evan rubbed his face. Here as in nearby? No, Kethel replied. Here, as in listening. The pressure returned, stronger than before. It pressed against Evan's thoughts like a hand against glass. Not painful, not frightening, just present. Pesting. Evan exhaled slowly. Okay, he muttered. That's new. The pressure shifted. Kethel's breathing sped up. It is focusing on you.
Figures, Evan said.
From the worst things. He swung his legs off the bed and stood. The pressure followed. Evan felt a faint sense of curiosity inside it. Not emotion exactly, more like a question without words. You can hear me, can't you? Evan said aloud. Kethel stared at him. Evan, speaking it already knows I'm here. Evan said calmly. Might as well be polite. The pressure paused. Then came something new. A thought that was not Evan's. Not a voice. Not words. An image. A vast emptiness filled with drifting shapes, feeding on light and emotion, moving from place to place without form or name. Cathal let out a sharp sound and clutched his head. Evan stepped closer. Hey.
Focus on me. The image weakened.
Cathal's breathing slowed. Evan looked straight ahead, mind steady. I don't know what you are, Evan thought, but you're not welcome to hurt people. The pressure wavered. Another image appeared. Fear. Countless species breaking under it. Minds folding. Silence following. Evan frowned. So that's your thing, he thought. You scare people until they stop. The pressure pulsed. Confusion crept in. Evan felt it clearly now. The entity did not understand him. Humans were supposed to react, to break, to scream inside their own minds. Evan did none of that. Instead, he felt tired. You picked the wrong place, Evan thought, and the wrong species. The pressure pulled back sharply. Cathal gasped. It withdrew, he said. For now, Evan replied. The next cycle was chaos. Station security sealed sections. Medical teams moved constantly. More humans were requested from other areas of the station. The pattern became clear. Where humans gathered, the disturbances weakened. Where there were none, panic spread. Evan sat in a large chamber with 5 other humans, all looking equally confused. So, one of them said, anyone else feel like space is staring at us? A few nervous laughs followed. Cathal stood near the doorway, observing. He had never seen humans like this. Calm, joking, mildly annoyed. He had also never seen the entity retreat so quickly. The station council member entered, flanked by security. We believe the phenomenon is attempting communication, a council member said. Evan raised an eyebrow. With who? With you, she replied. The room went silent. That's a terrible idea, Evan said immediately. We agree, she said, but it is happening regardless. Evan sighed. Figures. They moved Evan to a reinforced observation chamber near the station's core. Sensors filled the walls, useless against something without physical form. Cathal was allowed to accompany him. I will remain, Cathal said firmly when questioned. No one argued. As Evan stepped inside, the pressure returned at full strength. Not violent, focused. The lights dimmed slightly. Evan crossed his arms. Okay, I'm here. What do you want?
This time, the response was clearer. Now,
Not images, concepts, hunger, confusion, resistance. Evan frowned. You're not feeding, are you? The pressure trembled. The entity was struggling. Humans did not provide what it needed. They did not amplify fear. They questioned it, ignored it, mocked it. To the entity, that was like trying to breathe water. You don't belong here, Evan thought. But you're not evil. Just incompatible. A sharp pulse of awareness. Then, something unexpected. A request. Cathal staggered. It is asking, he said, stunned.
Asking what? Evan demanded. How? Cathal replied.
How you endure. Evan blinked. That's it? He said. You crossed half the void to ask that? The pressure shifted again. Loneliness seeped through. Evan's irritation softened. You're alone out there, aren't you? He thought. No answer. But the silence felt heavy. We're afraid all the time, Evan continued. We just live with it, joke about it, pretend it's smaller than it is. The entity hesitated. That idea did not fit its nature. Fear was food. Fear was truth. Humans treated it like background noise. You can't feed here, Evan said gently. But you don't have to die either. The pressure flared. Uncertainty. Choice. Cathel's voice shook. It does not understand choice without consumption. Then learn, Evan thought, or leave. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then the pressure, slowly, carefully withdrew, not fleeing, retreating. The station system stabilized almost immediately. Panic faded. Whispers stopped. Silence returned. Evan slumped into a chair. "Well," he said, "that was emotionally exhausting." Cathal stared at him. "You negotiated with an ancient void entity," he said.
Negotiated is a strong word, Evan replied. I mostly told it to get therapy. Cathal did not know what therapy was, but he suspected it was terrifying.
Later, reports came in. The entity was moving away from populated systems, avoiding human signals. Learning. Evan lay back in his quarters that night, staring at the ceiling. Cathal sat nearby, closer than ever. "You changed it," Cathal said quietly. "No," Evan replied. "I just showed it something different." Cathal folded his limbs, thoughtful. "Your species frightens the dark," he said. Evan smiled faintly. "We've been scared of it forever," he said. "Guess it's fair." Outside, the stars remained silent, but they no longer felt empty. The station did not celebrate. There were no announcements saying the danger had passed, no music, no cheers. Instead, there was a careful quiet, like people were afraid that too much relief might bring the darkness back. Doors stayed closed longer than usual. Conversations were hushed. Even the lights felt softer. Evan noticed it the moment he stepped into the corridor. Aliens watched him. Not with fear this time, with expectation. That made his skin crawl more than the entity ever had. He walked beside Cathal, hands in his pockets, trying to look normal. Cathal stayed close, closer than station etiquette allowed, but no one commented on it anymore. Rules were changing without being announced. "You are becoming a focal point," Cathal said quietly. "I hate that phrase," Evan replied. "It sounds like something that ends badly." "It usually does," Cathal agreed. They reached the central commons. It was fuller than it had been in days. Aliens of many species sat together now, ignoring old cultural boundaries. Humans were scattered among them, talking, eating, laughing softly. Where humans sat, calm followed. Evan felt the faintest pressure brush his mind. Not strong. Not threatening. Watching. He stopped. Cathal felt it too. His skin darkened slightly, then steadied. "It is back," Cathal said. Evan exhaled. "I figured it wouldn't just leave forever." The pressure did not increase. Instead, it lingered, careful and distant, like something approaching a fire for warmth without wanting to be burned. A station security officer approached Evan, her posture tense but respectful. "The council requests your presence again," she said. Immediately, Evan sighed. Of course they do. This time, the chamber was larger. More people were there. Scientists, security leaders, cultural specialists, and at least 12 humans brought in from different sections of the station. Evan noticed something strange. Some of the humans looked tired. Not physically, emotionally. The pressure in the room thickened as they entered. "It is testing," Cathal whispered. Evan nodded. "Yeah, I feel it." The council representative stepped forward. "The entity has not left the system," she said. "It has adjusted its behavior." "Meaning?" Evan asked. "It is no longer feeding," she replied. "But it is not gone." A low murmur spread through the room. One of the scientists spoke. "We believe it is learning." That word landed heavily. "Learning what?" Evan asked. "How to exist without causing harm," the scientist said. or how to bypass your resistance. That got everyone's attention. The pressure pulsed. Images flickered in Evan's mind. Not fear. Observation. Patterns. Evan clenched his jaw. Hey, he thought firmly. That's rude. The pressure paused, then retreated slightly. A few aliens gasped as the mental weight lifted. It listens to you, someone whispered. Evan didn't like that at all. Cathal stepped forward. It does not listen to him, he said. It fails to overpower him. That is different. Evan appreciated that distinction. The council took a breath. We need to know, the representative said. What happens if it adapts? Silence followed. Finally, Evan spoke. Then we adapt too. All eyes turned to him. I don't think it wants to hurt anyone anymore, Evan continued. But it doesn't know how to exist without feeding. It's like asking a storm to stop being weather. That does not comfort me, the representative said. Yeah, Evan replied. Welcome to being human. The pressure shifted again. This time, it came with something new. A pull, not forceful, inviting. Evan stiffened. It's asking me to follow, he said slowly. Cathal's eyes widened. Follow where? Not physically, Evan said. Mentally. That is dangerous, Cathal said immediately. Everything about this is dangerous, Evan replied. The council erupted in arguments, but Evan barely heard them. The pull was gentle but persistent, like someone holding out a hand. I won't go alone, Evan said suddenly. The pressure hesitated, then adjusted. The pull widened. Cathal froze. It is including me, he said. Evan looked at him. You don't have to. Cathal straightened. I will. Before anyone could stop them, the pressure deepened. The room faded, not vanished, shifted. Evan found himself standing in a vast, empty space that felt more conceptual than real. There was no floor, no sky, no stars. Just presence. Cathal stood beside him, rigid but steady. And there, all around them, was the entity. Not a creature. A field of awareness, stretching endlessly. This is you? Evan thought. The presence responded. Yes. Lonely. Confused. Hungry, but restrained. Evan swallowed. You don't belong near people, Evan said gently. You hurt them without meaning to. The presence rippled. Pain. Regret. I know, Evan continued. That's the problem. You're built for a universe that doesn't exist anymore. The presence shuddered. Change. Fear of change. Cathal spoke, his thoughts careful and precise. You fed on fear because it was abundant, he said. But abundance does not mean necessity. The entity hesitated. That idea was new. Evan stepped forward, though there was nowhere to step. You don't need us, he said. But we don't need to be your food either. Silence stretched. Then came something unexpected. Acceptance. Not full, not complete, but real. The presence withdrew slightly, reshaping itself, pulling inward. Learning limits. When the chamber snapped back into place, Evan staggered. Cathal caught him. The pressure vanished entirely. Station alarms blinked green. It worked, someone whispered. Evan laughed weakly. I have no idea what just happened. Cathal steadied him. You taught it restraint. Evan looked around the room. The aliens were staring at him. Not with fear, not with hope. With awe. That scared him more than anything else so far. Days passed. The entity remained at the edge of the system, no longer probing, no longer feeding. It watched. learned. Kept distance. Stations across nearby sectors began requesting human presence, not as soldiers, not as diplomats, as anchors, humans who could sit, talk, exist, and make the darkness uncomfortable. Evan received transfer requests daily. He ignored them all. One night, back in their quarters, Evan lay on his bed, exhausted. Cathal sat beside him, no panels between them.
You could leave,
Cathal said.
They would protect you. Evan shook his head. I don't want to be a symbol.
Cathal was quiet.
You already are,
he said. The pressure did not return, but the stars outside the window felt closer than before. Not threatening, watching, waiting. And for the first time, Evan wondered if humanity had not just survived the dark, but been chosen by it. The station slowly returned to its normal rhythm. But it was not the same station it had been before. People noticed it in small ways. Aliens walked the corridors with less fear in their posture. Humans were greeted more often, sometimes with nervous respect, sometimes with open relief. Old rules about distance and silence faded. New habits formed without official approval. Humans were being invited into places they had never been asked to enter before. Evan did not like it. He noticed the stares, the pauses in conversation when he entered a room, the way security watched him more closely. Not because they feared him, but because they feared losing him. That kind of attention felt heavy. One evening, Evan sat in his quarters, staring at the small viewport that showed a slice of space outside the station. Stars drifted slowly past, calm and distant. Cathal stood nearby, adjusting the environmental controls. He had grown quieter these past few days, more thoughtful.
They are speaking of you again,
Cathal said. Evan groaned. Let me guess. Council meeting.
Big words,
Bigger responsibility.
Yes, Cathal replied. They wish to formalize your role. Absolutely not, Evan said immediately.
Cathal turned toward him. You did not allow me to finish. Evan sighed. Okay, finish.
They do not wish to control you, Cathal said. They wish to learn from you.
That's worse, Evan muttered. Cathal stepped closer, his voice calm.
Evan, entire civilizations measure safety differently now.
Routes are being adjusted, stations are being redesigned, all because humans exist within them. Evan rubbed his eyes.
We didn't do anything special?
Cathal looked at him carefully. That may be the most frightening part. The entity had not returned. Not directly. Sensors detected it at the far edge of the system, drifting like a shadow that refused to come closer. It no longer tested minds. It no longer whispered. It simply observed. Scientists argued endlessly about it. Some believed it would leave forever. Others feared it was waiting. Evan felt it sometimes, faint and distant. Not pressure. Not hunger. Curiosity. One night, as the station entered rest cycle, Evan felt the familiar shift in the air. He sat up slowly. Cathal was already awake. It is here, Cathal said softly. Evan nodded. Yeah, but it's not pushing. The presence lingered at the edge of his awareness, careful and restrained. Evan closed his eyes. You're still there, he thought. Yes. The response came without force. I know, Evan thought. I felt you. A pause. Learning. Evan breathed out slowly. You're not allowed inside, he thought. But you can listen. Agreement. That surprised him.
You're changing,
Evan thought. Uncertainty. Fear. Not of humans. Of itself. You don't have to be what you were, Evan thought.
None of us do. The presence pulled back slightly, as if the idea itself was painful. Then it faded.
When Evan opened his eyes, Kethel was watching him closely. "It spoke again," Kethel said.
"Yeah," Evan replied. "But not like before." Cocktail lowered himself onto his platform, thoughtful.
"You have altered something ancient," he said. "Not by force, but by refusal." Evan smiled faintly. Humans are good at refusing. Days later, the council made their request official. They wanted Evan to become a permanent liaison, not a leader. Not a weapon, a presence. Someone who would travel with mixed-species crews. Someone who would sit, talk, exist, and remind the universe that fear was not the final answer. Evan listened quietly. When they finished, he shook his head. "I won't be your symbol," he said. "And I won't be your shield." The council grew tense. "But," Evan continued, "I won't hide either." They waited. "I'll stay where I am," Evan said. "Live my life. Fix systems. Complain about broken coffee machines. Be human." Kethel felt something warm settle in his chest. "That may be enough," Evan added. "It already seems to be." The council exchanged looks. Slowly, they agreed. News spread across nearby systems. Humans were not conquerors. They were not saviors. They were anchors. Creatures that could stand in the dark, feel fear, and still choose humor, connection, and stubborn hope. Other entities began to avoid human space, not because humans were violent, but because humans were difficult to consume. Weeks passed. The station felt lighter. Kethel slept fully now, no longer needing Evan's presence to rest. But he still chose to stay close, not from fear, from comfort. One evening, Evan and Kethel shared a quiet meal. "Do you regret meeting me?" Evan asked suddenly. Kethel paused. "That is a strange question."
"I'm serious," Evan said.
"All this started because we shared a room." Kethel considered this. "No," he said finally. "My species values solitude. But we were wrong." Evan raised an eyebrow. "Fear grows in isolation," Kethel continued. "You taught me that presence alone can be strength." Evan smiled. "Glad my bad habits helped." They sat in comfortable silence. Far beyond the station, the entity drifted farther into the void. It no longer followed fear. It searched for understanding. It would never return to feed. It had learned something it could not unlearn. Some minds could not be broken. Some species looked into the darkness and did not scream. They sighed, they joked, they stayed together, and the universe, ancient and vast, quietly adjusted. Back on the station, Evan lay on his bed, staring at the ceiling. Kethel rested nearby, calm and steady. Space was still dangerous, still strange, still full of unknown things. But for the first time, Evan felt certain of one thing. Humanity did not need to dominate the stars. It only needed to exist within them. And that, somehow, was enough.